Welcome to the Cheating Secrets channel. We hope you enjoy today's story.
For the last 30 years, computers have revolutionized our lives. They affect all of us. Some changes are for the worse, but mostly for the better. Almost a year ago, my laptop changed my life, but for the worse. I was stuck in Salt Lake City for a week-long meeting. It was my first evening away from home, and as usual, I called home. And what happened? I ended up watching a live sex show on my computer. Despite her advanced age, the woman on my small 14-inch screen had all the right curves in the right places, hips and chest. She slowly moved her hips on her partner in a cowgirl style. She leaned slightly, their lips met, and they shared a long, lustful kiss. After the kiss, they broke their embrace and changed positions. I had enough. I exited the program and turned off the computer. I was not at all aroused by what I had just witnessed. In fact, it all disgusted me. The woman on the screen, the one in the throes of intense sex, was none other than my lovely wife Marta. And this intense sex was happening in our home in Sacramento. Marta is a beautiful 47-year-old woman. After almost 25 years of marriage and 2 grown children, she is still a very sensual woman with all the right curves. I, Bob McLeod, a 49-year-old architect, have been a loving husband for 25 years, and now I am a cuckold. I had long suspected that something was wrong between Marta and me. She was distant, often distracted when alone with me, barely listened to me, and our lovemaking was, at best, sporadic. I was suspicious of her new habit of working late at the office and on weekends. So, as my trip approached, it became clear that I needed to find a way to keep an eye on her while I was away. It wasn't very difficult, just expensive. I had several motion-activated video cameras installed around the house under the guise of a new security system. I could monitor each camera from anywhere in the world. In some sense, I am glad I discovered her infidelity that evening. After a few minutes of self-pity, my anger took over. With no outlet to release it, this anger simply raised my blood pressure to a new peak. And the next thing I knew, I had collapsed. I knew something was very wrong. I had just enough time to call 911, give them my room number at the Hilton, and then I passed out. I woke up later that night in the intensive care unit. In short, a few days later, after numerous tests, I learned that I was suffering from an advanced stage of endocarditis. Most of my heart valves were severely damaged. In just a few days, I found out twice that my heart was broken. Figuratively speaking, I was devastated when I discovered that my 25-year marriage was over, and that my loving wife was nothing but a deceiver and unfaithful wife. I was also literally heartbroken when I learned that without a heart transplant, I had very little time left to live, at most a year. Under any other circumstances, I am almost certain I would have chosen the long and slow path out of my marriage with Marta. But now I didn't have time to waste. In complete solitude, confined to a bed in an unfamiliar city hospital, all I could do was plan the next few months, my last few months. Yes, I am a miserable loser, and it's true that I primarily plan to get revenge on my wife and her lover. So go ahead, sue me. I'm sure I won't be there if it goes to court. Only my aversion to firearms kept me from flying home and shooting them on the spot. Also, the fact that I couldn't fly. I had to take a long ambulance ride all the way home. My brother Steve was very surprised when an ambulance pulled up to his house in Elk Grove, California. There was no way I would go home, and I didn't want to impose on my children. That left my twin brother Steve. When strangers or acquaintances look at us, they can't tell us apart. But all close friends and family can notice the difference. One of the biggest differences is that I have only one kidney, just like Steve. But I have the right kidney, and he has the left one, my kidney. You see, in his early 20s, Steve traveled a lot. He didn't know he had a severe infection. He allowed it to undermine his health for several months, and by the time the doctors found out, he was close to death from kidney failure. After several tests and surgery, he was back on his feet with one of my kidneys. It's amazing that I turned to him in my time of need. I didn't need to ring the doorbell. As the medic wheeled me towards the house, company policy since I could walk by myself, the front door opened and Steve came out. Bob, what the hell is going on? What does all this mean? An ambulance in a wheelchair? Well, Steve, I'm glad to see you too, I said, getting out of the wheelchair. I turned to the medic to shake his hand. Thanks, buddy. Would you like a coffee before heading back to Salt Lake City? No, thanks. My wives are waiting for me, and I don't want to give them too many reasons to complain. One wife complaining is one thing, three is quite another, said the medic. I'll be going. Take care. Poor guy. I watched him as he slowly walked back to the ambulance, as if the weight of the world was on his shoulders. I walked past Steve and entered the house, my younger brother following closely behind me, just as he did 49 years ago when he followed me out about an hour after turning my mom's ordeal into a nightmare. Now it's clear why my mom always loved me the most. I went to the fridge, grabbed 2 beers, and sat down at the table, offering one to Steve. He hesitated for a moment before asking again what was wrong with me. Well, I'm in deep trouble. I think there's no better way to say it. First, my heart looks like Swiss cheese, and there aren't many miles left in it. The doctors said I have less than a year to live. Upon hearing this, my brother jumped up from his chair, stunned, with a look of pain on his face. Oh, Bob, that's terrible. Can't they do the same thing they did with me? A transplant? Well, I've been put on the recipient list, but the doctor said my chances are slim. Remember, we have rare blood? Add to that my age and the fact that I'm operating on just one kidney, and I'm not very high on the priority list. That's awful, my brother said, leaning back in his chair. How is Marta taking the news? I didn't answer right away. I just looked at him, giving him time to connect the dots. He looked at me, realizing that Marta probably didn't know. Oh my God. She doesn't know, does she? You came here straight from Salt Lake, concluded my brother. What's going on, Bob? Why didn't you go home? Steve, I found out that I have a heart condition after I had a heart attack in Salt Lake City, I told him. And I had the heart attack after discovering that Marta was cheating on me. It nearly killed me. And well, how did you find out she was cheating? Steve asked. It doesn't matter how, I replied. I have only a few months left to live, and I don't want to be in even more pain. That woman has already taken a chunk out of my life. I won't even divorce her. What are you going to do? Steve asked. First, I'm going to get as much cash as I can. I really want to enjoy these next few months. Second, I'm going to change my will and life insurance. That woman is not getting anything from my death. Everything will go to the kids. A thought suddenly occurred to me. Were they my kids? How long had she been cheating on me? What? Steve asked, noticing my silence. How bad is this? I don't even know if they are my children. I need to get some DNA tests done. Wait. Don't go there, brother, Steve said reassuringly. If you only have a few months left to live, you don't need to break your heart even more. Let sleeping dogs lie. You're right. In any case, I'm completely exhausted. I need to lie down, but not a word to Marta while I sleep. I have only a few months left to live, and I need my brother, I said. Steve came over and hugged me. The next morning, Steve took the day off. He then became my chauffeur for the entire day. Our first stop was the bank. I withdrew everything I could from our savings and cashed in everything we had in our safe deposit box. The total amounted to about $150,000. Second, I went to my employer, gave him all the necessary paperwork from the doctor, and resigned on the spot for medical reasons. I could swear I saw a tear in the eyes of my tough boss. Within an hour, I had a check for all my accumulated vacation time, my unpaid salary, and my 401k. By lunchtime, I had more than $500,000 in cash and checks, which I would cash as soon as I could. Right after lunch, I had an appointment with a lawyer. Steve pounced on me to tell him exactly what I planned to do. I asked him to trust me and promised that by the end of the day he would know everything. When we arrived, my lawyer had everything ready. I signed several papers, leaving everything I still had that I couldn't cash out to my children, and Steve signed as a witness. This included a country cottage I inherited from our parents, my car, my boat, and a few other toys. Then I signed a power of attorney for Marta, giving her the rights to the full amount she could get from selling our family home. We already had about $250,000 in equity, and this was to be her share of our assets. I gave the lawyer a letter to give to Marta when he met her the next day. Dear wife, you have stabbed me in the back. I would never have believed the day would come when I would call you a damn cheater. This is the only name I can use since I found out that you betrayed me, that you stabbed me in the back, that you cheated on me. I loved you and truly thought you loved me. Now I know the truth. You will receive the power of attorney to sell the house. I have withdrawn everything else from our bank accounts. The house is your share of our life together. I am not a thief, and everything is divided equally. I won't even divorce you. I will just be happy never to see you again. I will simply leave you and hope you die in agony soon. Go to hell. Bob. Steve read over my shoulder as I wrote the letter. Well, I see that you're mature enough not to let your pain dictate your actions, my brother, Steve said with a glint in his eye. Dad always said that you should never let emotions rule your life, I replied. Next, I visited my insurance agent to change the beneficiary of my life insurance. The benefit would be split between my two children. I didn't tell the poor guy that there was a high likelihood his company would be paying out on my policy soon. By the end of the day, I was exhausted again. Steve took me back to his place, as I desperately needed to rest. The next day, I woke up early and watched my brother as he left for work. He offered to take another day off, but I insisted that he not change his routine too much. As soon as he left, I went back to my room, packed my things, and called a taxi. Within 2 hours, I was on a flight to Acapulco. I knew that Steve or the kids wouldn't be able to keep the secret from Marta for long, and I was determined to spend the next few months away from that woman. I needed to enjoy life as much as possible, and being apart from my wife was a great start. I rented a villa and hired a cookmaid. She was very helpful and pleasant to be around. I also contacted a world-renowned Mexican cardiologist. 2 weeks later, I called my children and brother to let them know where I was. As for my brother, it was in addition to the note I left him, explaining that I had to leave the country but would call him soon. Damn it, Bob. Why did you run off like that? My brother asked. And guess who your wife came to for comfort? Damn. It's all right, Steve. I know you can play the role of the attentive guy, I said. Anyway, I'm calling to let you know that I'm living in Mexico and really enjoying it. The kids are coming to visit me next week, but they promised to keep it a secret from their mom. How about you? Can you come after that? Agreed, my brother replied. I'll take some time off. Where are you? Just catch a flight to Acapulco, give me your flight number, and someone will pick you up, I said. You don't trust me to keep a secret, brother? This sounds like cloak and dagger stuff. I haven't even told the kids where exactly I am. I don't want to take any chances. I met Steve at the airport. We grabbed his bags and headed to the waiting limousine. Our destination was a good hour's drive from Acapulco, practically in the countryside. As we approached Villa del Corazon, Steve was impressed. Bob, is this the villa you rented? No, this is an annex to my doctor's medical center. Sorry about this, but I had a pre-scheduled appointment here on the day of your arrival, I said. Come with me. The limo driver will take your luggage to my place while we wait for the doctor, who will be examining me. We went inside, and a nurse led us to the waiting room. We were the only clients. Shortly after she left, an orderly came in and offered us drinks. We both took a glass of fresh juice. Cheers, I said, raising my glass toward my brother. Cheers. I quickly downed the glass of juice, and Steve followed suit. So what's the deal with this doctor? My brother asked. Does he have some miracle cure that nobody knows about in the US? No, but he is a renowned heart transplant surgeon. Oh, I see. So he's a very good surgeon? Well, I don't know if he's good. I chose him because he has a rather flexible sense of ethics, I said. Steve looked at me curiously. I don't understand. Flexible ethics? What do you mean? Well, for the right price, he doesn't care where the organ comes from. And for an additional fee, he gets it himself. Steve looked at me, shocked. This isn't serious, Bob, he started to say. I'm not feeling so well. I'm getting dizzy. I stood up and walked over to my brother, taking his hand. "Steve, you're my brother, and I would do anything for you," I said, hoping to tell him everything before he lost consciousness. "In fact, I already gave you one of my kidneys. And how did you repay me?" "By sleeping with my wife. You betrayed the person who saved your life, your own brother. For that, I want my kidney back, and while we're at it, I'll take your heart too. It's time to pay up, brother. Our father always said we both had our hearts in the right place. That will be true for you very soon." I'm not sure if he heard my last tirade. I rang the bell, and the orderlies returned to the room to prepare us. After many weeks of post-operative recovery, I left Mexico and returned to California. I was still too weak to work, so I asked my children to let me live in the cottage. Most of my money was spent, but I had enough left to live for a few more months without working. Due to my condition, I couldn't receive any unemployment benefits or medical insurance. Steve's disappearance didn't go unnoticed. In fact, it was my dear wife who brought it to light. As soon as I arrived, the kids informed me that everyone was looking for their Uncle Steve and that their mother had contacted the police. The following week, a police detective came to the cottage and asked if I had any information about Steve's whereabouts. I told him that the last time I saw Steve was in Mexico, and he was alive and well, but I hadn't heard from him since. The inspector, of course, sensed something was off, but whatever it was, it happened in another country, and there was nothing he could do about it. He showed up a few times just to see if I would crack and confess, but eventually his visits stopped. I knew the day would come when I would have to face my wife. It was a warm summer day, and I was working at the cottage, topless, painting the old shed. I didn't hear her approach. "So this is where you're hiding?" "No, not hiding," I said without even turning around, continuing to paint the wall. "Everyone who matters in my life, my 2 kids, knows where to find me." "And me? Do I not count?" Marta asked. "Not anymore," was my simple reply. She sat quietly for a while. "I never got the chance to tell you how sorry I am, Bob," she said very timidly. I realized she would stay unless I drove her away. I put the brush back in the paint can and turned around. Her eyes nearly popped out of their sockets when she saw the very red T-shaped scar on my chest, a reminder of my heart transplant story. "Look, if it makes you feel better, just say your piece and then get the hell out of here. You need to understand that I don't care about you anymore, one way or the other." I saw tears streaming down her face, but I also noticed that it left me with no emotions at all. None. No anger, no pity, absolutely nothing. "Damn it." "What is that?" she asked, pointing at my chest. I felt my irritation rising. "Just a scar. I needed a heart transplant, and I got one." "Oh," was all she said. "Did the police ask about Steve?" "Yes." "And what did you tell them?" "The truth, that I have no idea where he is, but that a part of him will always be with me, right here." And I tapped my chest where my new heart was. I turned to grab my shirt. That was a mistake, as it gave Marta a clear view of the scar from my recent kidney surgery. "And what about that scar from the kidney operation?" I was irritated and made another mistake. "Yeah, and I got my old kidney back," I said. It took a moment for Marta to understand. I saw her face turn pale, and then she turned and ran away without even saying goodbye. Creature. Good thing I didn't offer her one of my last mugs of beer. Shortly after that, I received the divorce papers, signed them, sent them back, and never saw her again. For those wondering, the DNA test confirmed that my children are indeed mine.
Thank you for being with us and listening until the end. If you found it interesting, please subscribe, give us a like, and leave your comments. And we'll see you on the Cheating Secrets channel.